Hey guys, Jack Stensrud here, and today I'm going to go over my experience at the regional championships in Oregon that were held 2 weeks ago now on February 26th and 27th. Um, to start off, let's take a look at the list that I'm just going to put it up on the screen right there, and let's go through it. This was heavily influenced by the list that Kyle Thomas, Grady Thomas, and Alex Cook played at Anaheim Regionals. They really helped me out with the list. I can't thank them enough. Let's take a look at the card counts. Most of these explanations are just repeating what they said in their YouTube video about the deck, so I'm going to try not to repeat it. You can check that video out on their YouTube channel, which is called Under Spokane. So I got a 3-2 Groudon line. It's pretty standard. I was trying to fit in a third one, but I never really needed it, so I didn't have any big trouble with it. 4 Wobbuffet, very standard. I want to start Wobbuffet every game, and playing 4 is the best way to do that. 1 Bunnelby is very ordinary for Groudon. I didn't really use Rototiller that much. It was more just Burrow. I was able to cheese a couple games with it, just milling my opponent's last 2 cards. I played 1 Mr. Mime. That was one of the MVP cards since I wound up playing against Yveltal 3 times. It really helped against the breakthrough Yveltal with Fright Knight, and definitely a useful addition. I added about 5 minutes before the tournament started. 1 Landorus EX was amazing in the Groudon mirror, even though I only played it once. But being able to snipe for 30 and add that pressure on Groudon, force them to have center ladies or force them to not use Focus Sash is amazing. It really helped out a lot, and it wound up helping in one round against Night March too. So those are the Pokemon. I played 3 Juniper, 2 N. My list is incorrect. I'm going to switch that up. Let's see. I did not play 3 Colress. I played 0 Korrina. I played 3 Korrina. There we go. It was pretty standard. I tried to fit in another Juniper and another N, but I never really got space. The 4th Korrina isn't really necessary just because after the first couple turns, it's just not, you don't need it. 2 Center Lady, I should have dropped that down to 1. 1 Lysander, I should have bumped that up to 2. I had a lot of problems the entire tournament just not being able to find Lysander, and I lost a couple rounds because of it. And the second Center Lady didn't really help me as much as I had hoped. I kept it in because I didn't play Mime at the time, and that was my main way of beating the breakthrough Yveltal. But this is a much better decision, so yeah. I played 1 Hexmaniac, 1 Team Flare Grunt, 1 Zero Sick, 1 Cassius. Cassius was for Sableye Garb, just to, if I didn't start Groudon, let me get a Wob out of the active. Let's see. Zero Sick was really good against stuff like Vespiquen, although I wound up not playing against one. I don't think I should have teched for Vespiquen as hard as I did. I really didn't need it. I could have played a lot more stuff. 1 Flare Grunt was pretty good, helped a lot in some matchups. It won me 1 game in the Groudon mirror. And then 1 Hexmaniac, I didn't really use it. It didn't help that much, but I was glad I had it because I cut the Silent Web, so I didn't have any outs to beating Giratina or Aegislash. So it was definitely worth keeping. 4VS Seeker, it's ordinary. Everyone plays 4VS Seeker unless you have a very good reason not to, I feel like. It's just really, it's an ordinary card. 3 Robo Substitute was great. I may bump it up to 4, but probably not. It's not 100% necessary. And 2 Enhanced Hammer was good. The Spokane list played 3 for Anaheim, but I didn't think it was necessary. And I needed some space for other cards. So, and then going into the one-ofs, the deck plays 6 one-of items that aren't tools. They're all pretty ordinary. The Spokane list didn't play Mega Turbo, but played 2 Letter, and didn't play Escape Rope, but played 2 Switch. The Escape Rope was more for against Regice. If my opponent benched more than 1 Pokemon, I could Escape Rope then Lysander, bring out Regice, that kind of thing. Mega Turbo, I feel like I needed a slightly faster start, but not too fast. Groudon doesn't need to set up super fast just because it can kind of choose when it wants to initiate in the game. Um, let's see, Super Rod and Ultra Ball are good. I never needed more, I never really needed less. A second Ultra Ball would have been okay, but I don't think it would have been worth the space. Going into the tools, we have 2 Hard Charm, 1 Float Stone, 1 Focus Sash. Pretty standard. The Spokane list played a Silver Mirror to lock Vespiquen and force them to not be able to Blacksmith after you get rid of all 4 of their double colorless. But I didn't really expect any Vespiquen, so I cut it, and I didn't play any Vespiquen or really see any at the tournament. I think they were all scared off by Sableye, which wound up really not showing up in any reasonable numbers. But the Floatstone was nice. All these are pretty self-explanatory. Focus Sash, the Groudon Mirror, and again, stuff like Blastoise and Night March. Dowsing Machine. Looking back, I wish I had switched this for Computer Search. I really like Dowsing, but if I had Computer Search, I think I would have been able to set up more consistently in some of the games I dead drew. Using Korrina for a Groudon and a Computer Search for a Tropical Beach on turn 1 is amazing. I really wish I had that a lot of times. There were a lot of games where I just didn't start anything, and having that would have been good. Scramble Switch was also an option, as was Gold Potion. I decided to cut Gold Potion out of it because I was playing Mime, and that Gold Potion was usually I would switch into a Groudon that had damage, and then either Center Lady it and Gold Potion it if it had a lot of damage, or just Gold Potion it, and it just wasn't worth it. Scramble Switch was good. If I had played a Regirock, I would have played Scramble Switch, but I didn't play the Regirock. So, and then rounding out the trainers, we have 4 Tropical Beach. I was playing 3 Beach and 1 Silent Lab, but I decided to switch the 4th Lab for a Beach, since I could already shut off abilities with Hex Maniac and Wobbuffet, and I was still having a lot of trouble with consistency. So, all in all, a good play. It's the only thing that really keeps this from being a budget deck. I wish it wasn't, but it's pretty cheap and standard, but not nearly as good as it is in Expanded. So let's talk about the matchups that I played against. I've got those also. So round 1 I played against David Frisk. He was playing Yveltal. He's a really nice guy from Colorado. He was playing Reverse Valley instead of Hypnotoxic Laser, which I think really helped him. He was able to play a lot more cards. Game 1 I was able to set up Mime and do pretty well. I think he had knocked out my Primal Groudon, but he had played down to 2 cards, so I was able to put down Bunnelby and just burrow him twice for game. Game 2, I had to drop all 4 of my Tropical Beaches pretty early in the game, and I wasn't able to recover after that. He was able to get a Reverse Valley out and stick it down, and I wasn't able to respond very well with Fighting Fury Belt on Yveltal EX, because it can be tricky to knock out, especially if he doesn't put down a stadium and I'm out of stadiums. I think Regirock would have helped in the match, and I think I played a little bit too fast game 2. A lot of the game I was still kind of rushing through it, and if I'd just slowed down my pace of play a little bit, maybe I could have squeezed out a win, but time was called as we were setting up game 3, so we tied. And I'm fine with that. It's a tricky matchup that I hadn't tested a huge amount, which was too bad. I wish I had gotten more time, but I made my choice for a deck like 2 days before the event, so it happened. Round 2 I played against the Groudon Mirror, and Landorus was just amazing. He didn't play Mr. Mime that I know of, or any way to really beat that. I didn't see a Center Lady out of him the entire game either. Game 1 though, I made the mistake of overextending on the Landorus. I put too many energy on it, and I wasn't able to build up any threats on the bench, so he was able to knock out the Landorus, and then I had nothing to counter it, so I lost pretty quickly. Game 2, he didn't draw nearly as well, and I just set up a Landorus and swept his entire board. And then Game 3, we got to a situation where we each had 2 Primal Groudon on the bench fully set up. His had a Focus Sash and I think a Float Stone. Mine had a Focus Sash and a Hard Charm, but his had 90 damage each on him because I was able to I was able to spread damage with the Landorus. So even if it had gone down to the prize trade, I probably would have won the game just by setting up much better. Bring out the Hard Charmed one, knock out the Focus Sash, he knocks out my Hard Charm, I knock out his with the Focus Sash, and now he's stuck. but he had a Bumblebee active, and I noticed he had 7 or 6 fighting energy in play. He had 5 on the Groudons and 1 on the Bumblebee, and he had already burned through all his switching cards and his Super Rod and stuff, and he hadn't rototillered them back. So I just dropped a Team Flare Grunt and drew past for the rest of the game. My Bumblebee was prized, so I couldn't deck him out fast, but I was able to take the game that way, which was really nice. I was able to deck him out, yeah. Round 3 I played against Sam Chen. He was playing Turbo Dark with like Breakpoint Darkrai, Yveltal EX, Fright Night Yveltal, that kind of thing. Really nice guy. We only played one game, wound up being really close. I think if I had played an extra Lysander and if I had played Computer Search, I definitely would have had a better chance. It came down to, I think, us both having 1 prize left, and he played N. If I drew the Tropical Beach, I won. If I didn't, I lost. And I had like a 20 card deck and 2 Tropical Beach left. And I think I had 1 Juniper and 1 VS Seeker left, so I didn't have a huge amount of outs. I think I had 4 outs. Maybe a couple more, I don't know. But I didn't do that, and game 1 took about 40 minutes, so he won the series pretty solidly. I mean, we played for 5 minutes, game 2. I think we got like 5 turns in, and then time was called. Round 4 I played against Stephen Bates. He was the number 1 seed going into day 2 and going into cut at Anaheim Regionals. He was playing Yveltal. I was just able to set up Groudon both games and either Lysander him or end him out of all of his dark patches right before I took knockouts with Groudon. He played Sableye with Junk Hunt, so he was able to try and build up a board state where he could promote something with Free Retreat and then go Dark Patch, Dark Patch, Dark Patch, Dark Patch, double colorless Fighting Fury Belt knockout, and then I wouldn't have any way to beat that. But I was able to either Lysander the threat or end him out of it. So I won both games pretty solidly. I used Gaia Volcano on a Darkrai EX for I think 520 damage. That was the highlight of the series for me. So at this point I was 2-1-1 going into round 5. I needed to win out to have a chance at cut, and since we were really close to having top 32 on day 2 but didn't quite get there, I figured a lot of 6-1-1s would bubble out, and it wound up being that none of them did, but at that point I had no way of knowing. And then round 5 I play against Night March, and my opponent, I don't think he played Muscle Band, I don't think he played Computer Search or N, which was surprising, and he didn't know how really Primal Groudon worked at all. He had to read a couple cards, and game 1 I was able to sweep him with a Landorus, and it took a while, but game 2 he drew really well. He hit heads on a bunch of roller skates, and he was able to teammates, and I wasn't able to get stuff out of it. I made a mistake. I had a Groudon active with a Focus Sash and a Landorus in the discard. I made the mistake of benching a Mr. Mime so I wouldn't get benched out before I played a Juniper. Or actually, the Groudon had damage on it. It had like, or I think it had 170 on it because he had hit my Focus Sash. So he had he had 1 prize left. Something. I benched the Mime, played a Juniper. I benched the Mime so I wouldn't get benched out, and I wound up drawing a Robo-Sub, so it wouldn't have mattered, but he was able to just Lysander the Mime and take the knockout, so I lost, which was too bad. I wish that hadn't happened, obviously. I could have benched the Robo-Sub, and then I drew into Super Rod Korrina Strong Energy, and I would have been able to take a 2-prize turn, knocking out all of his Night Marchers and taking my last 2 prizes. So I would have won the game if I hadn't messed that up, which is really too bad. I would have been 3-1-1, and I still would have had to win out in my next 3, but if I had won 2 of my next 3, I would have finished 5-2-1 and made top 32. But it happens. Round 6, I played against Aromatisse, which was actually a deck I was really considering for the tournament, but I decided against it since I couldn't find a tech to beat Raikou Eels, and I was still having trouble with the Vespiquen matchup. Looking back, it actually would have been a pretty good play. But he played, he played Prisms and Rainbows, he played Lasers, and Sceptile EX, which was his main Groudon counter. Game 1, we both didn't really initiate the game, and he played down to 2 cards, and then I decked him out with Bunnelby. And then Game 2, he item locked me the entire game with Silent Toad, and I tried to set up a Groudon, and I wound up setting one up, but he had a Sceptile on the bench that would have knocked me out, and I couldn't find my Lysander. I made one mistake of Korrinaing for nothing with Lysander in hand, and then accidentally playing the Lysander. He said, no, you already played a supporter, and then he ended me the next turn, and he said he wouldn't have done it if he hadn't known that I had the Lysander in hand. That was just idiotic on my part. That was stupid. But we finally got to a point where he knocked out all my walls, so he had 1 prize left, I still had all 6. He still had Toad active. I drew, and I played N, putting out 1 card. Since Sceptile needs to have the opponent have a special condition on him, I end him to 1 and just hoped he whiffed the energy for Malamar EX. And he did, and I knocked out Toad. He whiffed the energy, promoted a Darkrai EX from Breakpoint, and hit me for, I think, 100 or something. And then I drew, knocked it out. I think I played a Center Lady, and I knocked it out. He still whiffed the energy, and promoted the Red Rock promo. And then I drew, finally hit the Lysander. Lysander is other Darkrai EX from Dark Explorers, and took the knockout there. So we had 2 really, really close games, and I was able to pull both of them out, but my opponent was a really good player, and yeah. Round 7, I played against Blastoise. I tested the matchup a lot. Generally, in my testing, the Blastoise player, unless I don't start Wob, shouldn't usually go for Archies and should just manually attach to a Keldeo and take two hit knockouts, and put like, let's see, put 130 damage on Groudon, and then once I promote Groudon, put 130 damage on it, then get the Blastoise out, and then take the knockout with Keldeo once I promote the Groudon, which turns off the Wobbuffet lock. But game 1, I started Wobbuffet, and my opponent drew pretty badly, and I was able to sweep pretty quickly. Game 2, my opponent went first, started Lone Jirachi EX. I went second, started Lone Landorus EX. And he draws and doesn't do much. I think he played an N. I attached a Strong Energy and a Fighting Fury Belt, benched some stuff. I wound up prizing 2 Wobbuffet in the game, which was scary. But I did 50, and I wound up knocking out the Jirachi with 2 Hammerheads. And then I was able to promote Wobbuffet again, set up Groudon behind it, and close out the series. So we both drew pretty poorly in that game, but I just drew a little bit better, and my deck does a little bit better against when it dead draws. So round 8, I was at the time 4-1-2. If I won my last round, I would make top 16, which would have been great. Would have got me 45 points and put me very close to my invite. And I was playing against Daniel Lynch, who's a player I have a lot of respect for. I've played against him a couple times, and he was playing Cyber Toad Crobat. I teched really hard for this matchup with the 0-6 Flare Grunt, Center Ladies, all that stuff, and they didn't help at all. Game 1, he opened 2 Zubats, went first, drew, and passed. I had opened Bunnelby, and nothing else. He assumed I was playing Sableye, because I had played Sableye a lot in the past, and I opened Bunnelby, and I was playing sleeves with Garbodor on him. So it was a fair assumption, but I drew Bunnelby, attached a Focus Sash, attached a Fighting Energy, put down Tropical Beach, and used Tropical Beach. He was very surprised, and he just drew Bench Toad, attached DCE, and then went Laser Verbank, knockout. Laser Golbat, knockout. So, losing game 1 in 5 minutes. If I had to lose game 1, I want it to be fast, but I didn't want it to be like that. Game 2, I set up a lot better. He set up too many attackers, though. He put a Head Ringer on the Groudon, and then was able to get about 120 damage with a Manectric EX, a Toad, and Bat damage. And then he also played a Ghetsis and took 7 cards, which was my entire hand. And I was very surprised. I didn't expect to get Ghetsis playing Primal Groudon. That's not a deck that I usually expect to get Ghetsis when I'm playing, but it worked perfectly for me. Got my entire hand, and I didn't have a beach. I drew a beach 2 turns later, but by then it was too late. So I couldn't take out all his threats. I needed a Lysander, and I couldn't find it once again. He just promoted a Crobat that I can't one-shot without a Stadium, and I didn't have the Stadium. I needed to Lysander his second Manectric, and I couldn't. So he just swung for knockouts a couple times, and my last hope was to have him play down to 2 cards and just Bumblebee him for the game, but he didn't. My last-ditch effort was to promote Bumblebee, Lysander his Seismitoad, and mill 2 cards. He had 2 left in deck, but he had the AZ to bring up the Toad and to take the knockout. So I lost the set, and I wound up finishing 4-2-2. So it was the top. I made top 64. I think I got 56th, but that didn't earn me any points. I got 12 booster packs, which I should have just sold, but I didn't. I opened them, which was silly. But yeah, I'm not 100% happy with my finish, but it could have been a lot worse. Once again, I'd like to give a big thanks to Kyle, Grady, and Alex for the deck idea. I couldn't have done it without you guys. Yeah, that's about it for this video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this recap, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. If you have a suggestion for future content, drop a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.